Hi, Nate Martinez, Shannon Wellman, episode 52 of What If. So you're representing a buyer in a transaction, and the seller sends over the seller property disclosure, and your buyer does not want to sign.
For the disclosure statement.
I don't understand. They don't want to sign it, Shannon.
Right. So sometimes that's because they're not accepting everything in that. The difference, though, is that the signature line of the seller's disclosure statement where the buyer signs it is for receipt of that item. It's not saying they're accepting everything in that, and that's a misconception sometimes from buyers, is they think when they're signing it, they're agreeing that they're okay with that leak that was disclosed or that roof that was replaced or whatever that is that they may have a concern about. It's not that they're agreeing to it, it's that they've received it. It's just acknowledging that they've received it. So in the end, whether or not they sign for it or not, if it's been properly delivered to their agent who's been identified in the contract, then that's going to be their receipt of it either way. It is nice to have it from the buyer so we know the buyer has seen that disclosure statement. If they're not approving something or they're disapproving something in there, they need to include that in their inspection notice, their buyer inspection notice, that that's an item that they have concerns with.
Okay, let's flip the table a little bit.
Okay.
What happens if a seller does not want to fill out a seller property disclosure statement?
So if that happens, and oftentimes we'll get this when a seller has not lived in the property, maybe it's a family member who's passed or something where they've never even been in the property, or somehow they've inherited it, that sort of thing. Or sometimes it's someone that's only owned it for a very short time. Maybe they were an investor, that sort of thing, and they don't want to include it. So the challenge is that the requirement is for a seller to disclose. The seller's disclosure statement is a tool to keep them in compliance with that legal requirement of disclosure. It doesn't mean that they can't fill it out and say, I don't know these items. Here's what I do know. I've owned it for this long. Here's my name and how, I know some basics. In most cases, they're going to know who ownership is. And if that's what they know, that's what they know. But if they still should fill it out and just identify the things they are not aware of and make a note of that.
Okay, I'm just going to go on this.
Okay.
So I'm a flipper, right?
Okay.
I got a seller property disclosure statement that said all this.
Right.
And now I have a disclosure, and I said I've only owned it for a month and I'm not filling nothing out. And here's a seller disclosure. Is that lack of disclosure?
Is absolutely lack of disclosure. So anything that they've been made aware of, they are responsible for, and particularly if they've received that seller disclosure statement when they purchased that property, that's going to be a challenge if they don't convey that same information to the next buyer. So yes, they're absolutely on the hook, I guess, if you want to say that, to disclose those items.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a super day.